Listen. This is the Entrepreneurial Podcast. We're going to upload an episode every Wednesday. Check it out if you want. Check it out if you don't. We're here in Alaska talking about entrepreneurial topics here in the last frontier. Welcome back to episode 23 of the Entrepreneurial Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the concept of the early bird. And here's what we're going to talk about. In summary, if the early bird gets the worm, what happens to the second bird? I'm just going to leave it at that for now. Kelly, what's next?
Question of the day. Okay, Josiah,
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes. What do you got?
Would you rather burn your turkey? So this is Thanksgiving dinner. Would you rather burn your turkey but have an otherwise perfect meal?
Okay.
Or burn everything except the turkey, which is perfect?
Ooh. Interesting question. Okay, so
Now,
I think
I'll give you clarification. Like edible burned, like where it's kind of like scarred, but not like charred, like just ash.
it's not going to taste good. You can eat it, but it's not going to taste good because it's burnt.
Well, it's gonna taste burned. It's not gonna be like ashy.
Okay. Well, I think breaking this question down, I think ultimately what you're asking is when you sit down at the Thanksgiving table, what is more interesting to you food-wise? Is the turkey the main dish, or are you more there for the sides and fixings? That's what you're asking. Turkey is good. Turkey is especially good with all those sides and fixings. But if I had to choose, I think I would choose the sides and fixings.
I'm the same.
And then maybe if you do have turkey there, but it's burnt and doesn't taste good, maybe you could mask some of that burntness with, I don't know, like some nice cranberry.
Ooh.
Oh, gravy would be a good option too.
No, but the cranberry, you're right.
Yeah,
that
cranberry's
might be
pretty good. But yeah, that's what I would go with. I would rather have a plate full of fixings than a plate full of just turkey.
I think I would agree with you.
Do you agree?
I think so. Especially because that point at the end, I think I could just I'll just deal with the burntness and cover it with more gravy or cranberry sauce.
Yes.
But the fixings, if all those were burned, I didn't quite say, but especially including like a pie or something, if that was burned too, oh no. I'm especially prone to loving desserts. I love sweets. So no, that could not be burned. The turkey can just eat it. If the turkey's not even there, what if that burned to ash? Oh well.
Okay, so it's settled. At the Nagel household, the sides are more important than turkey.
Well, and Nagel household might do more prone to eating a ham than a turkey anyways.
Yes. I do enjoy ham more than turkey. Thanksgiving, though, I think is that one moment of the year where I will accept a turkey over a ham.
That's shocking.
But if you did like a Christmas turkey as opposed to a Christmas ham,
I think that's wrong.
yeah, as do I. And I think probably there's a lot of Americans that only eat turkey in that way on Thanksgiving once a year. But they probably would have a ham several times a year. Easter is probably...
I know, I was about to say that one.
Easter and Christmas are ham activities. And, from time to time throughout the year, it can be appropriate to cook a ham just for a special occasion or
like
a
big
Sunday
group.
lunch or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
A little more unusual to just cook a turkey on a random Thursday.
In July.
Now, if we're talking about maybe like a nice barbecue platter that has a large variety of different meats, there certainly is a place for a big turkey leg. But we're way off topic from what the question was.
Oh, but the turkey leg. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, turkey leg. Go to Disney World.
Go to the fair. Do they do turkey legs at the fair?
The Alaska Fair, I'm not sure. But
right? Isn't that a thing at some
I would
fairs,
like
though?
to propose that ham legs become
Oh, right.
more. I want to be able to go up and purchase a fully barbecued ham leg to carry around the fair
What
and
about
just eat off
a
of.
ham leg surrounded and covered in bacon?
Yes. And ham leg would basically be a pulled pork on a stick.
I see where you're going with
Anyway,
this.
all right.
We're giving people ideas here.
Yeah, new business plan. Been watching some of those unique food fair kind of videos on YouTube.
They look
It's
and sound
research.
amazing.
It's research.
Research, yeah. Just research.
Business expense. Okay. So as an entrepreneur, I think that part of being an entrepreneur is challenging accepted concepts. And what I mean by that is you have an idea, and that's just how people do it. Now, that might be the best way, that might be the only way, but I think entrepreneurs' role in our society is to challenge those concepts and see if there's an opportunity for innovation, for doing something better, improving on what's being done, or doing something completely different. So with that, and we might do this from time to time. We'll see how this conversation goes. We want to kind of challenge some concepts ourselves as entrepreneurs, maybe things that we've discovered or thought about in the last year as part of our journey. So today we're going to talk about the phrase, the early bird gets the worm. I think that's a pretty common phrase that most people have heard and understand what it means. But I want to challenge that a little. So I'll start with a couple thought-provoking counter phrases. So the early bird gets the worm. Now how about this? The early bird gets the worm, but the night owl gets the mouse. I want the mouse. Mouse sounds juicier, in my opinion.
Oh my goodness.
But here's another thought. If the early bird gets the worm, what happens to the early worm? The early worm gets eaten. Huh.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, think about that. Do you want to be the early worm? Maybe you want to be the early bird, but not the early worm. Maybe not everybody's situation is the same. I'm getting ahead of myself. Second one. What happens to the early mouse? I'll tell you this. It's the second and the third and the fourth mouse that get the cheese. The early mouse is stuck in the mouse trap. Dies a graphic, painful death. And then his buddies that weren't there as early, maybe weren't as bold, maybe were a little sleepier, they get the cheese. Huh. What does this phrase mean? Let's break that down a little. Kelly, you have some thoughts on what this phrase actually means?
Yeah. So out of Missouri State website, they've got, I wouldn't call it an article. They've got like a little a short page on this idiom. It's an English idiom. The early bird gets the worm. So definition, here's the definition that they write. Being first improves the chances of success. So the early bird gets the worm is a proverb which emphasizes the importance of starting something early to maximize the potential outcome. And it came out of a book, book written in 1605, a book of Proverbs by William Camden. Think about the concept of, if you set yourself up and you get up earlier, you might have more success or more opportunity for success. Specifically in this case, like catching a better meal.
Yeah. So in thinking about what we're going to talk about today, we both kind of came up with some thoughts. This phrase is accurate in many circumstances, but we don't think that it is accurate in all circumstances. So we have a couple examples. And I think kind of the theme for circumstances where it is accurate is there is a limited quantity of something, and that plays into that. The early bird gets the worm. That's only an advantage if there's a limited number of worms, right?
Right.
So if you arrive early to a limited event, you're likely to receive access to the event or receive the item. If you want to get the newest iPhone and it's a limited release, they only have so many right now.
Right.
You might need to get to Best Buy a couple hours early and stand in line in order to get it.
Right.
Now, if the new iPhone has a large amount of inventory, what advantage do you have for getting there 3 hours early when later in the day someone can just walk in and get the exact same thing?
I think that's the main reason why it comes across like that, where it's not just a limited quantity too. It could also be a limited time offer or something. But yeah, there's always like a limitation. So yes, if you were earlier or quicker on said like event or whatever that's going on, that's limited, you have more of an opportunity to get said item or thing. But you could also, if you're thinking about early bird gets the worm, if you're arriving to a very special thing like an interview for a job or a super important meeting at work, arriving early can not only make you look good to others in the group or your boss directly or hopeful boss, but you can give yourself some breathing room and time to prepare and read through notes or just mentally prepare in general for that interview or important meeting. So that one is more like associated with time and not only like the aspect of like looking good to others, but just setting yourself up for success. If you're walking in late or even just right on time, you might be like a little flustered. You might be like putting things in and out of bags, dropped your keys. Oh no. And like those things can kind of like set yourself up for not being in the best like mental state for something important like an interview or an important meeting.
Yeah. So the impression that you give others can be affected by this. And I would say in the case of an interview, that's also the same idea as a limited, a scarcity.
Sure.
There's maybe only one job that you're interviewing for, only one position, and there's 15 people there. So you want to be able to give a good impression. You want to be there and give that good first look because not everybody's going to get the job.
Right. And even if nobody ever notices, like you ended up getting there half hour early and you sat in the parking lot for a while, like nobody ever actually saw, it at least gives you the opportunity to set yourself up for success a little bit better.
Exactly.
And then some would also say, so part of that being early bird gets the worm, some would say that could associate with getting up earlier or starting your day off earlier, and that means you're going to be more productive and more successful. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think for some people that might be the case, and some people that might not be the case. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution here. But I do think that in our current society and structure, there's a lot of motivational life success kind of speakers and book writers that push this idea. If you want to be successful, you need to get up at 4 a.m. specifically and then work out and then you eat your food, whatever, and then just grind for the next 8 hours. And there certainly are plenty of people that are very successful that do that. But why are they successful? Is it because they woke up at 4 a.m. or is there something else there? That's what I would encourage you to think about.
Right.
And likely for every person that's successful because they have their schedule that way, there's also other people that are successful that don't have their schedule that way. They maybe woke up at 8 a.m. And that's because their body and mind might work a little bit differently. You can still be successful in whatever way you want to define that word by not being the early bird in every situation.
Right.
So here's maybe a few examples. And I think kind of the theme here is there's not a limited quantity for these. And I would argue most things in life kind of fall into these categories. Not every day are you going to be getting that limited new iPhone release.
Right.
Those are, I think, events that are less common than your day-to-day activities. So here's one. Gyms where you work out usually are open for a range of hours, sometimes even 24/7. So it's not necessary to be the first one there in the morning when they open. Your workout isn't going to be better compared to someone who comes at midnight.
Now, it's dependent, right? That's also going back to like what we were saying before about those that early bird gets to work can be accurate, is that some people might do a better workout in the morning than compared to themselves in the evening. But I wouldn't say in comparison across the board, like for every single person, everyone has to work out early in the morning for them to be successful or complete a good workout. Like that's not going to guarantee success.
Yeah, so if you're not energized at 4 a.m. when you think you should be going to the gym, maybe you shouldn't go. Maybe there's a different time of day where you have more energy, and so your workouts are actually going to be more effective in what you're trying to achieve.
Right.
There's a lot of 24-hour gyms around the country. Maybe you're if you go to the gym early because you want it to be a quiet place, maybe 4 a.m. actually isn't the best time. Maybe try different times throughout the day. What about 2 a.m.?
Maybe even earlier.
Who's
Stay
at the gym
later.
at 2 a.m.?
Right.
There's probably people there.
My dad.
Yeah, maybe. There's probably
my
people
dad's
there,
been there at 2 in
but
the
I
morning.
would venture to guess there's less people there at 2 a.m. than there are at 4 or 5 a.m.
Or 4 or 5 p.m. Or 2 o'clock in the afternoon where it's still like work hours. It might be a little quieter at your own gym.
Yeah. Anyway, so kind of like challenge those ideas. Another example is with restaurants. Restaurants serve dinner at a range of hours. And in general, those who get there, say dinner starts at 6, those who get there at 6 for dinner, they're not necessarily getting something better in
Taste and
what's the
value.
yeah, than someone who shows up closer to closing at 8. Now, I've never worked in a fancy restaurant. The quality could vary throughout the night, maybe a little bit, but there's probably not a one-size-fits-all. The first dish out of the kitchen for dinner is
Right.
better than the last dish.
Right.
Maybe the chef back there is a late night guy, and so later throughout the night he actually gets better at cooking.
Could be.
Maybe he's an early guy, and the quality of the dish goes down. It's not going to be the same across the board.
Now,
Also, I guarantee you'll probably, unless again it's a limited special dish, you'll probably get the dish no matter what time you come. Yes, some places will run out of that special meat. They'll only cook a limited amount of the pulled pork.
Sure, but that's going back to the limitation.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next.
Well, I just wanted
yeah.
to add in there, I do find it interesting that, and it says on the Missouri, state website, Missouri State, like the school, they said that it's such a popular idiom that it's, shortened down to even just early bird. Like everybody understands like, hey, this is an early bird special. Like if you're going to come by it, like this is the early bird special. Like that's just a shortened version of this idiom. So it's interesting thinking off the restaurant. Like there are restaurants that offer like an early bird special, like between 4 and 5 or 4 and 5:30 early bird special of dinner. So
yeah, that's an interesting thing you just brought up. Let's think about why would they offer a special between 4 and 5:30. I would argue it's because who's trying to eat dinner at 4:30? There probably are some people, but the restaurant's probably kind of slow at those hours, and so they're offering a special in order to encourage more customers to come, so that they have a more steady flow of customers.
Right.
Between 4:30 and 9 when they close, as opposed to if there was no special everybody might try to come at 6 to 9 instead, and some would walk away because the wait's too long, or it would be just pure overwhelming chaos for the staff. So that's why is there a happy hour special at, you know, places like Sonic for their drinks, for example.
Right.
It's, look at the hours. It's between 2 and 5. That's not a normal time for most people to want to go get a snack or a drink. Those are probably, it's the end of your work day. Maybe you're starting to think about dinner, but you're not, you know, you're not going to get dinner till 5:30, 6, 7, whatever it might be. And so they're encouraging you like, hey, you need that ocean breeze. You need that grape slushy with nerds now.
You do.
We'll offer you half off because literally no one's in the drive-thru right now. We need some customers.
Right.
So yeah, that's interesting that you brought that up.
It's interesting too, the thought process of early bird gets the worm. Going back to like the gym and working out, going back to that example, we're all uniquely made and different in capabilities. So some things might be better for you in the morning, while maybe that same task for somebody else might be better for them to do later in the day, or even afternoon, evening, that sort of time frame. So morning bird versus like night owls, what we normally talk about, though those might normally focus on like sleep schedules, but it can also focus on, okay, what are you more productive in the evening, or are you more productive in the morning? It just depends on the person. And studies show that most people are more predisposed to one or the other. It's not like a one size fits all. Everyone is a morning person or should be a morning person because that's better.
Yeah, if you're interested by this, I did a quick Google search and kind of skimmed a few articles. There's some different psychological kind of angles where researchers have studied this concept. There's some other kind of sleep and health angles where people have studied this as well. And there's some interesting stuff out there that you can read about. And kind of pulled some of our thoughts. Well, kind of had some ideas about this, and then found that there's some research that kind of supports what we were thinking and hypothesizing. So that's interesting. I don't know. Maybe we'll link some of those in the description. Maybe I'll just let you go to write this down, www. dot. When I say dot, I'm talking about the period on your keyboard.
Stop it.
Google, and that's Google dot. That's the period again.
Oh my goodness.
com, pronounced calm. And from there, it's a really robust search engine. I'm excited to be sharing about this. Some of you might not have heard of it. Pronounced google.com.
Or what are the other ones? You gotta broadcast those out.
Bing!
Go to Bing. Yahoo.
I do all of my research predominantly on Ask Jeeves. That's www. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so what we're getting at is, yes, there are disadvantages and advantages to each, being a more morning energized or morning early bird predisposed person versus a more late night person. I think what's interesting, and we mentioned this briefly earlier, our society is kind of catered more towards the early morning birds. Why is the concept of the 9-to-5 job what it is? Everybody knows what that means. Most people who have a salaried kind of position or a desk job, or what is that, white collar?
Yeah, white collar job.
They kind of have a set schedule that maybe you could argue is more catered towards early morning people. So that's something that can be difficult for many people. You know, I got out of the Army about a year ago. I would say in general, I've my whole life probably been a little bit more predisposed towards the evenings, being energized in the evenings. Have had periods of time where I had a really tough time getting up early. I thought the military would change me in that way. And so I had to become more of a morning person and enjoy the mornings, be more energized in the mornings. It didn't really work. They failed.
Maybe it's because your wife kept you up.
Yeah.
Distracting you with chit chats.
Yeah. My wife definitely is a late night person. And that made it difficult at times to keep to a 8-hour sleep schedule when I was getting up at 4 or 5, whatever it might be in the morning. And
I didn't help you with that.
Yeah. So for, I guess, nearly 8 years, if you count my ROTC training where I had early mornings, I was in a environment where being an early morning energized person was encouraged, or enforced rather.
Yeah,
I didn't have a choice. It wasn't encouraged. It was forced. But it didn't really change me, somewhat because of my lifestyle and the way I wanted my lifestyle to be. So, in college, I had a lot of late night studying. So that certainly didn't help when I was still finishing different labs and projects at 2 a.m. and had physical training 3.5 hours after that.
Yeah.
That was rough. And likewise, as an active duty service member, if I was staying up till midnight doing whatever it might be, hanging out with my wife or friends, and then 5 hours later had to be up, that it just didn't match up with my lifestyle or my energiness.
Right.
So,
and clearly same with me.
yeah, very, very similar for Kelly. Not that she had forced quite as early mornings, although there was some of that playing a college sport.
Some of it basically the same. Some very early, like 6 a.m. mornings, most mornings.
Yeah. Okay. So you experienced some of the same stuff that I did.
Yeah.
What I'm going to argue, and this probably won't work for a lot of people based off of their job schedules. You might not have the flexibility, but if you can adjust your schedule towards what you are most inclined sleep and energy wise. It's not all about sleep. Probably a decent bit of it, I would argue, is. But it's also about when are you most energized, focused, motivated to work. And maybe you kind of find yourself in a lull after lunch. What is that called?
An afternoon siesta.
Siesta.
Take a little nap.
There's the morning doldrums. I don't really know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a thing. Anyway, there's
lots of sleep.
start thinking about noticing patterns. Maybe there's parts of your day where you naturally are more focused, more energized, and more able to complete work efficiently and productively. And so with that, you can kind of arrange and prioritize your different tasks around that. Maybe put your menial tasks that you can do without much thought into the blocks of time where you're not as energized. Answering emails. Maybe you're not your best at 9 a.m. when you show up to the office. Maybe warm yourself up by answering your emails first. Taking care of that. That can kind of be like a mindless task. At least it is the way I answer emails. Delete spam. Delete spam. No, I will not be doing that. Delete spam.
Maybe even something like organizing your desk or preparing your workspace or whatever it is, wherever you're working, for that. So some people like to do that. Like another good place that you tend to tidy up. Well, hopefully. Is your house. So that's what I'm referencing here, but you can associate that with your workspace. Some people like to clean up their space and area completely in the evening. And so when they go to bed and they wake up, they have a clean, fresh start so they can get right into working. Others, it's the opposite, right? You've been working and then you just go to bed and then in the morning you clean up. That just might need to be something you figure out on your own. Like, so maybe when you get into the office first thing, it's like you organize maybe a little maybe you've had a stack of papers you've not been wanting to go through for a while. Maybe go through those like somewhat mindless tasks that's not concentrated on trying to fix a problem and whatnot.
Yeah. So there's not one size fits all solution.
Yeah.
Find what works for you and your lifestyle and your personal abilities and energy level. So here's another concept I kind of want to talk about briefly. I think the idea of the early bird getting the worm plays into a scarcity mindset. Meaning, kind of scarcity mindset, what does that mean? That kind of means you view life as being a pie, right? There's a limited number of slices in that pie. And if you don't take yours first, and maybe aggressively take it first, claim it, you're not going to get any. I think a better mindset is to kind of look broader and see that there probably is more than enough for everyone. Here's a couple thoughts from a business perspective. Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola both very successfully exist in the exact same markets. There's plenty of room for both sodas, even though they have products that basically are very similar.
I think people might get angry at you. You just even said that. You associate them.
Coke is much better. But Pepsi is an alternative that some would drink if Coke isn't available. That's obviously not what many believe. That's what I believe. But if there's enough customers and enough revenue for both of these huge corporations to exist, who in many cases have very similar drinks, is there enough pie for you? I'd say yes. Here's another maybe smaller scale concept. Why can't your laundromat that you're opening exist in the same area as another laundromat? Scarcity mindset would say, there's not enough customers, there's not enough laundry, only one can exist. Cage match, let's fight who wins. And in some cases, that might be the case. If you're in a little town with 300 people, there might not even be enough customers for one laundromat.
Right.
But if you're in a big area and there's only one laundromat, that doesn't mean there's only enough pie for one laundromat.
Right.
There could be a lot more demand and need for that. And you can both have sweet revenue like Coke and Pepsi. Here's another idea. Maybe if you don't focus so narrowly on what you think the only pie is, you'll turn around and realize that you're actually in a bakery filled with pies. Everybody gets a pie. In fact, you could have 2 or 3. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I have a vivid imagination. So, yes, the early bird may get the worm.
The first worm.
Well, they may get the worm if there's only one worm, and it's a limited edition gold Air Jordan iPhone SE worm.
Oh my goodness.
iPhone, I keep talking about iPhones. I don't know anything about iPhones.
We don't like iPhones.
I think iPhone
We don't
Pro
like Apple.
SE with the one new iPhone has like a terabyte hard drive, right?
That's
their fancy version.
nasty.
Anyway,
That's
the
huge.
early bird might get the first worm, but what about the second bird? Nobody talks about the second bird starving to death, so I think we can assume he also gets a worm. Now, is the worm that the early bird got better? No. Well, maybe not. Who knows? But the second bird might actually get a juicier worm, or he might get 2 or 3 worms. Challenge that idea. And I think as entrepreneurs, this is important, at least for our current business models that we have. We have a lot of flexibility over our schedules. We've been thinking about this a lot over the last month or two. And what do you think we've kind of arrived at, Kelly?
As we mentioned before, briefly brought up, my poor husband definitely got sucked into late night. I mean, he was already a night owl, but definitely got sucked into it more, especially in the military. because of me. But going off of that, since we're both night owls, we tend to shift our day to, we'll call it the right. So shifting it to later in the day, by waking later, working later in the evening, and going to sleep later than definitely the average person in our society. Mostly because we don't necessarily, based off our businesses, don't have strict early mornings that require certain like us to be up by a certain time, because we purposely picked that for that reason.
Yeah, we don't have a retail location that opens at 8 a.m. every day.
Right, exactly.
That's just how our businesses are.
Right.
So
And
this wouldn't be a concept in the same way to maybe a business owner or entrepreneur who had a restaurant. They're going to be
right.
a little more stuck into certain schedules.
Right, but you could be a restaurant that focuses on afternoons and evenings still, So that's what we've thought about, just like a coffee shop can focus strictly on the early mornings, maybe into evenings, but I've also seen plenty of coffee shops that have done like 9 to late at night. Just kind of depends. But for us, since we are definitely prone to being night owls and very late evening people, we've gone back and forth with different sleep and like work schedules, trying to find what works best for us and our lifestyles and our like physical body, mental health. And we continue to adjust it even like a year out from Josiah being out of the Army, into this journey of being full-time business owners. And I think we've gone off of, I think especially recently, and why we thought of this podcast was over the past year, we've gone back and forth with, well, like, who cares? Like, we can sleep in a little or like stay up later. And then we're like, oh, no. We're always told like the early bird, I'm being a little dramatic. We don't actually say this, but the early bird gets the worm. But really, we get told all the time, well, to be successful and to be successful business owners or successful person in general, you have to be an early morning person. You have to get up early to do those things. And that's not been the case for us. We've gone back and forth so many times on sleep schedules and realized, like, why not just accept what we're consistently doing while still prioritizing and being responsible? I'm not saying let's be lazy here and not get any work done at all. But if we're being responsible and managing our time, why does it have to be from 9 to 5?
Yeah, here's maybe an example. Right now, it is almost 9 p.m. at night, and we're recording this podcast. I feel pretty energized. I think you feel pretty energized. So this, many people probably wouldn't feel that way at 9 p.m.
Have these deep conversations.
Have the energy or the mental capacity to talk about stuff like this at this time of day. Maybe 9 a.m. would be a better time for them. 9 a.m., I don't think we've tried it. I don't think we've even thought about trying to do a podcast at 9 a.m. I don't think it would work well.
Yep, I don't think so either.
We tend to record these usually in the late afternoon. Today we're doing it a lot later than that. But that's what works for us. Okay, let's wrap this up. The overall idea, I think, that we're trying to convey here through this discussion is to just challenge the norm and the idea that in order to be successful, you have to be a morning person. You have to focus on doing the difficult tasks first thing in the day. That doesn't work for everyone. That very well could be the case for you, but it might not be the case for someone else. So consider your personal schedule. Consider what works for you and adjust your schedule to that. And don't judge others or don't feel judged if you do something that's different from the norm. And in some cases, being different can be better. Or it can be better for you and what you're trying to do. So if you think that waking up at 4 a.m. is what's going to make you successful in whatever you're trying to achieve, I would argue you're probably going to be disappointed, because there's a lot more to that equation than just getting up early.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I personally think that part of the equation is low on the list. One of the least important variables from a math standpoint. That was kind of nerdy way to end it.
That was very nerdy.
But there's a lot more important things to focus on if your goal is to be successful.
Especially with technology nowadays. It's just kind of wild.
Absolutely. And this might not be the case for all societies and all historical timelines and multiverses.
And multiverses, stop it.
But right now, especially with the internet and technology that we have, this is what I think. This is what Kelly thinks. And this is what we've kind of explored in our personal experiences. So with that, thanks for listening or watching to this podcast, episode 23. So we're getting close to 25. I don't know if that's good or not. Maybe that's special. Maybe we'll do something unique.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Instagram at baconbagel_AK. I've been posting a little bit more on there specific about our Amazon business, some things that happen in that on a daily basis, some successes numbers wise, some different products I've sold, etc. Might be interesting to you. And Kelly, where are you?
On Instagram at jellybagel_AK.
And this podcast is on YouTube as well as, I think, all the podcast platforms.
Yep.
If we're not on a particular one that you want it on, let us know. We'll figure it out.
You can find us at Entrepreneur. You might also need to type in our names. Josiah and Kelly Nagel.
Thanks for listening and watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye.